feel my teeth are much cleaner after using that water pick.
Do you?
Yeah, I've been putting it off for a while because when I think about high-pressured water being shot into my mouth,
Right.
I go, how could this possibly not be messy? But I said, well, people like water picks, so it must work. So we ordered one. I tried it out last night. Almost pierced my skin. It's so powerful, which you need to combat plaque and to blow out, food and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I probably could have saved myself time just by turning on a garden hose and spraying down the mirror and the entire bathroom.
I think my favorite part was sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden I start hearing this hysterical commentary from the bathroom. It's like, what are you doing in there?
It was out of control.
It was out of control.
It's almost as if the whole rubbing your stomach and patting your head.
Right.
How your mind. It was weird for me to try to angle it and not spray it and then turn it on and off. But after doing it over and over and needing an actual towel, not a paper towel, a towel to clean up my mess, I figured out how to use it. So now I'm excited because I like going to the dentist every 4 months, but ever since we've been in lockdown,
I know, we
I
had
don't
an
really want to
appointment
go.
too. We had it for what?
It was August 7th, and I really miss. I was like, I really want to go because I have crooked teeth at the bottom, so it's harder to clean. So I always love when a dentist just every 4 months can really get in there and clean it.
So did you never have braces, or you did?
Just on my top.
What was the reasoning for no bottom? You just didn't.
That was always me.
Fred's like, why?
It's like I don't want them on the bottom.
Different.
I was like, you don't see the bottom teeth, but I never thought that it would become a harder issue to brush and floss.
Getting older.
I didn't mind how they looked. I cared about how my front ones looked, but the bottom you never really see. And if they're a little crooked, I don't care the bottoms. But now that I'm getting older, I'm like, it's harder to floss, and I have to go to the dentist more often just to be sure that I stay healthy.
It's crazy because when I was a kid, I had braces, and I didn't wear my retainer, so I had to get them again in middle school. And it was just a hot mess. And then as I got older, I kind of stopped wearing the bottom retainer. And I can see, like, one tooth that kind of moves a little, but...
That's good. You didn't have a...
That's crazy. Teeth are clean. We're good.
We're good to go.
Water pick.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm feeling good about that, which is nice. Because even though I'm not working on the show, we're on camera with our podcast and our videos and Instagram and everything all the time. So... I want to make sure that my teeth stay sparkling, and I want good hygiene. So
for me,
and for you, of course, yeah. You have the strongest neck probably out of anyone, because anytime we're close together and my breath is not good, you'll let me know. Did you have tuna? I'm like, yeah. Did you brush your teeth at 3:30 in the afternoon? No.
I'm crazy. I'm anal about my cleanliness.
Oh my God. I'm like, babe, I got something really important to show you. I was like, look at this. Play, and then you're like, oh, what is it? I go, I'm trying to show you something important.
I got a strong neck. Just
strong
like
neck.
Benji. But every time he's on that, now we have the harness, but he'll move that neck real quick when he sees dogs.
Oh yeah, he'll sit down because he's tired. He goes, Mom and Dad, I can't walk anymore. And then he sees a dog, he lowers. And just and then he would run until he died. That's how much he wants to attack other animals.
That's so weird. That's our son.
That's our son, Benjamin. He's the co-host here. But welcome, everyone, to the Freddie and Alyssa Show. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. We have 3 incredible guests that are going to be on next week, the week after, and the week after. So you don't want to miss that. So subscribe to the channel, like, comment, all that fun YouTube stuff. Today's episode, we're going to do a Days of Our Lives chat. I'm going to change it to Days of Our Lives chat rather than Days of Our Lives recap because we've gotten a few comments of people thinking it was going to be a recap of Days of Our Lives, hence the title Days of Our Lives recap. Right. So I don't want to mislead anyone, so we have now changed it to Days of Our Lives chat with Sonny Kiriakis.
So basically we're chatting about Sonny Kiriakis' scenes.
Sonny Kiriakis' scenes, but we kind of recap the week, and then we also answer questions. So I think Days of Our Lives chat is the appropriate title. So we always appreciate feedback. We read comments, and when we see things like that, I go, maybe we should change it to chat. So thanks for keeping us on track there. We always appreciate your comments and your feedback. And I want to thank everyone for your heartfelt, thoughtful, kind responses to our podcast on Wednesday when we discussed our wedding date, which we after having that discussion on the podcast, after reading all the comments, we really are getting super, super close. It was incredibly helpful.
Yes.
Like 80% of the weight of it all went away, and we're almost there, if not kind of already there. But I don't want to, announce it and then we change. So, but we're slowly, all the dots are, I talked to my parents,
really
like things are,
it.
So I appreciate all of you so, so much. And if you wanted to check that out, I think it was a really good combo that we had. I think a lot of people who are getting married during this time or have been in weddings or invited to weddings, we kind of touched on a lot of issues with testing. And so we're just trying to figure it out. But we had a great response. So I want to thank all of you so much for your kind words and for tuning in. But today I want to dive into Days of Our Lives. I want to talk about this week's episode. I was going to say this week's, but I was on just one day. And I want to give just a little recap, even though we're not recapping, but a recap of kind of what went down if you happen to be stumbling across this video or our channel for the very first time. So I've had questions throughout this entire experience. But to sum it up, Chandler, Massey, and myself were both let go by the show in February. So it was not our decision. The show decided to rest our characters, get rid of us, however you want to phrase it. We've kind of went through that whole entire thing. But it was their decision to let us go. And we wrapped up these past 6 episodes. The first of the 6 aired this week. And what I want to touch on with this episode, which is really interesting, is this was after a 9-week break. So I don't know if anyone's gone on vacation, no matter what you do for a living. If you go on vacation for 2 weeks or you have a little bit of a break, there's this odd rust, even if it's 2 weeks, that you have to kind of shake off. And after 9 weeks of being off for that long hiatus over Thanksgiving and Christmas of this past year, we went back in. And Chandler and I had only read 5 episodes. So we knew we had 6. We've only read 5.
Because you only received 5.
Because we only received 5.
Right.
And we were DMing each other, and I was like, hey. So this episode that aired this week, you don't really see where the story is going to go. I think this episode truly was, you could kind of feel a transition where we were arguing, then it was resolved. So that was like, oh, we were in turmoil, then it was resolved, and now next week, I think there's 2 episodes next week, but the next week's episode, you're going to see a little glimpse into where the story could potentially go in those next 5 episodes. But this was
so you have 5 episodes left.
5 episodes left that are going to air.
Oh my gosh!
But me and Chandler, going back after 9 weeks, we're reading these scripts. We're up to script 5, but I still had faith because anyone who's watched the show, if someone says, "That's it, I'm getting a divorce and I'm going to Paris." And then all of a sudden, on their way to the airport, they get a call, or on their way in, they bump into someone who's back in town. And so you never know. Or
right.
There could be a gun that goes off and someone's face is like, ugh, and they fall over, and then you realize they're in the hospital and they're fine. Or
right.
they even flatline.
They still
come back. Or they're killed and they come back. So I'm not saying we were killed or that we just left, or I'm not going to spoil the story.
Will tell.
You're going to find out September 1st. But we still had faith that him and I were like, okay, we've read these 5 episodes. It's been 9 weeks. We're back in these hallways, and we were first up, which is always the most nerve-wracking. I'm always very excited to be first up because you're in and out.
Yeah.
If you have no other sets throughout the day, you literally get to work at 7. You are literally home by 9:30, 10. You're there for 3 hours.
What time would you say First Up shoots at?
It's 8:45.
8:45 is the very first scene of the day.
Very first scene of the
Got
day.
it.
So, but you don't have much time to mess around because you get there, you do hair and makeup, you go to dry block, which I actually saw a question on Instagram, by the way. And dry block is essentially, just side note, is where you go with the actors in your scenes on the set with the director, and he'll or she'll tell us where we are going to walk. So when you say this line, you walk to the couch. On this line, you're going to go to the bar and grab a drink. And if there's any sort of like, maybe I can say this instead of that, is that okay? Or I don't understand his motivation here. Like, should I go really at him, or should I be more heartfelt? You can kind of talk. So that's a dry block side note. But you dry block, and then me and Chandler are sitting in my dressing room. We're running our lines, which you saw this week of that scene, or of those scenes. And we were sitting there, 10 minutes to go. We're about to go on stage. We're dressed, and we're running these lines. And I was like, we're going to know if we're going to be let go by this next episode. He goes, I know. He's like, I just wonder if, like, we'll never know. Well, I guess we'll know when we get the script.
Oh my gosh.
A knock at the door.
Oh my gosh.
The 6th script is delivered.
Oh my gosh.
It's delivered. So Chandler and I are like, oh my gosh. So we have 2 choices.
So you're together in the room.
Yeah.
You can't make
this up. And
so you have 2 choices.
2 choices. One, do we read through the whole script, not the whole script, but just our scenes.
Right.
And chronologically, or do you skip to the last page? Skip to the last page. And we just looked at each other, we're like, oh, all right. So we're out. And
did you guys just look at each other after you read it, or did you read it out loud? Did you read it yourselves?
I mean, this will be better to come back to once the last episode airs.
Okay.
But yet again, I'm always very careful. I never want to say anything, but it's just like, obviously, when we leave or when whatever happens, when we leave the show. So we read the last page.
Obviously, something happens.
Something happens. So
Yeah.
So we were like, okay. And then they're like, Freddie and Chandler, or Freddie Smith and Chandler Massey to Studio 4, Kiriakis Mansion, and hope everyone has a good shoot day.
Shut up.
So we go to set.
What, 5 minutes after you read this?
5 minutes after. After a 9-week break, haven't acted, nothing, doing all this stuff. And so we get to set, and I'm still in my mind thinking, well, things can change yet again. Things could change. You might get another script, or maybe they're just doing whatever.
Right.
So we do our first scene like usual, and I think Chandler and I have gotten to the point where I very rarely will challenge the producers, writers, directors on what I know they want.
Right.
I used to do that in the beginning a lot, but then you're going to get a note, and they'll say, "Hey, Freddie, can you take it down a little? That you're being a little too aggressive." Or, "Hey, can you be a little more flirtatious?" Or, "Hey, can you show a little more love or compassion?" And after doing 5,000 scenes, almost 900 episodes, I start to know what they want.
Right.
So instead of making bold choices, I just wanted to cut out the part where they go, "Hey, Freddie," and even Maria, our acting teacher, used to say, I'll make like a bizarre like joke, or I'll make a bizarre choice, and she loves it. And she goes, "I'll give you $60 if you do that on tape." And I'll always say, "I might do it today." But then when the time comes, I'm like, I just don't want to do this whole scene and then go, "Hey, we have to redo it." I know what they want. So Chandler and I just know what they want, and him and I and many others too. But we work together all the time, so I'm using us as an example. We just know what they want. So we go out there, we do our first scene. The executive producer walks out and gives us notes. And so me and Chandler are like looking at each other, and I was like, okay. So we do the scene, and me and Chandler still aren't talking, like, because there's mics everywhere too.
Yeah, you gotta be
so
careful.
There's always some people. I'm very aware that the booms could always be on, and the boom mics that are in the set, if they're not turned off, are streaming through every single television screen in everyone's room, in the studios, over in the production. So I never say anything. I'm always very aware that someone could be listening. So me and Chandler still aren't saying anything to each other. We do the next scene. Executive producer comes out again, gives us notes, and then he leaves. And then we do the next scene. He comes out again, gives us notes. We do the next scene, comes out again, gives us notes. I think he came out almost every scene.
And you and Chandler generally do the one take thing.
Yes. I don't know if we ended up rehearsing and then taping, or if the executive producer just knows we go straight tape, so gave us notes before taping.
Oh, so you weren't taping yet. You were rehearsing.
Well, rehearsing and taping is right.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's you just go, hi, what's going on? And all right, now we're going to tape. Hi, what's going? It's like back to back.
But generally, don't they say you're like the straight to tape gang?
Yeah.
And you
so
won't
we'll
do
go
the
straight
rehearsal?
to tape. So if we're trying to get out and we're doing something straight to tape, sometimes the producer will come and say, "Hey, go straight to tape, but really make sure on this scene that you don't let him off the hook. Like, really make sure in this scene, don't let, like, really," they'll kind of go, "Just so you know, we're looking for this."
Because it's really rare that you guys will shoot again unless someone flubs a line or
yeah.
whatever.
So I don't know if we shot these twice.
Okay.
I'm just saying the point of it is that maybe a producer will come out once or twice in a set of scenes to make sure, like, hey, you misinterpreted where we're trying to go here. So, because all the scenes would then be weird.
Right.
In that set.
Right.
So if we come in on the first couple scenes with where they want it to go, they go, oh, they
know. Yeah.
But it was very, very involved. So we wrap up, and we had another whole episode later that day. So we leave the set, and me and Chandler are just like walking, and in my mind, I'm like, we are for sure done. I was like, that was super laser focused on, we need this set of scenes is the transitional period that we need them to be angry, to finish that up and transition into love. And this means something. This was a very important episode. So we're just walking yet again, not saying anything. We walk over, and I think I actually did ask the producer at that time. I go, hey, I was like, we just got the last episode. I was like, are we done? And he just goes, yeah. He's like, I know it's not always easy to hear. He's like, but like, yeah, like right now, it's going to be like, he just felt bad because we work with him all the time. Yeah. So I know it was probably hard for him to deliver that news, but I did ask, and Chandler was there too. And you could just tell he was like, not like, yeah, you're at it. He was very much just like.
Generally, do you think it's like the executive producer's role to tell you guys that, oh, hey, you're not coming back? Or is that a different phone call generally?
I mean, I don't know.
Because you've never been let go before.
No. The only time I left the show, it was my decision in 2014 or 15. So I told them. I do remember the first time that Chandler was let go a little early when they brought in Guy Wilson. He was
phone call.
In person.
Oh.
I think it was in person. So
interesting.
So yeah, so that's still up in the air. I'll get back to that in a second. But so we go out, we talk. So me and Chandler leave. We're still being cool. We walk down the stairs into like the downstairs hallway, and we just looked at each other. And I'm like, dude, as soon as he came in and gave a note each, he goes, when he gave a note between each scene, he goes, during the scenes, I knew it. I knew that we were done because they were giving notes between each scene because they wanted it so perfect.
Yeah.
So him and I, when I look back, I go, how cool is that we're so in sync that even during these last set of scenes, when the notes were coming in, we didn't tell each other,
right?
But we both knew. And so we were like, oh my gosh. So then you go into kind of like this shock. And then we had other scenes that day, and we got them out just before lunch. So the next episode, whatever the next episode is, we shot that same day, even though it's airing next week. So we sat around for a couple hours. And just to sum this up again, too, I just want to make this very clear that, yes, we weren't told. Yes, we found out in the scripts. And yes, I was a little, I guess the emotion was kind of hurt, surprised, disappointed, just because I always thought you'd get an email or a phone call. And so I was a little hurt or upset, but I never, vocalized that. I never wanted to be unprofessional because, yes, if I were in their shoes, I also don't know what in their shoes means. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We don't know what that's really like. So I can only say, if I was the producer, I would have told people. But I would have liked being told. I think a quick email would have been after almost a decade of work. It would have been nice. So I was a little upset about it, and I never really got an answer of what was going on. But I want everyone to know, because we've had comments before too, like, that's so terrible. And it's like, yes, I wish I would have heard, but I do not harbor any negative feelings. Mm-hmm. It is still a wonderful memory of mine. All these episodes, everything we've created, it gave me the platform to meet so many amazing people around the world, to tell a great story, to become a better actor, to build our life, to make money as an actor. That's so rare for so many years. So I just want to let the audience know too that I as we start talking about how we left and how all this happens, I just want to remind people too that I'm in a good place about it. That I can only imagine managing 1,000 people with this much at stake and everything. So yes, I would have liked to call, but I don't harbor any weird feelings. I love Days. Even when I'm done with Days, I will continue to help the show and promote and talk about it. It's a part of my life that I feel really awesome and amazing about.
And also, too, what professionals you and Chandler are to find that news out through a script, and 5 minutes later, you're shooting. I would have been like, excuse me, hold up.
I think some people would have, you know, and me and Chandler, and this is something too, spoiler alert, this was another question. Chandler and I are locking down a time. He's going to come on the podcast again. So we'll talk about all this, because we did a podcast, for those of you who didn't see it, probably sometime in February. So maybe we'll link it in the description, or you can just search Freddie and Alyssa Show, Chandler Massey. There's 2 times he's been on the show, but the last time it was fresh. Like 2 days after all this happened, we talked about it for almost an hour. But now I'm really curious to talk to Chandler, because we've talked through Instagram DM, but I haven't spoke to Chandler on the phone or anything since, I don't think so. It's just been through DM we've caught up. Yeah. So I'm curious just to like catch up with him, and we can talk more about it. And then since the last episode, we'll have, by the time we air Chandler's episode, we will have aired, so we can really talk about the story and how it ends and all that stuff as well. But I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'll speak for myself. It's you know, I just always knew that this wasn't going to last forever. Yeah.
You've always said that. I always said that every year when you got the renewal, you're just like, I'm very grateful.
Yeah. So for me, I wanted at least one more, just because of different plans that we had, of different things that we wanted to do. I was like, oh, I really want to do another year. And so that was a bummer. But, you know, I just knew this wasn't going to be forever. I knew we had Florida on our mind, whether I was here another year or not, that we want to go. We're going. Yeah. So what was that going to mean for the show? I don't know. So it was kind of, you know, they made the decision, which in retrospect, I'm actually happier, because it allows me to think ahead, to move on to another chapter, to be focused on my future without knowing that I was the one that made a decision. So I can never look back on a decision I made and maybe feel regret, even though I wouldn't. You have to make decisions in life and move on and know that they could go one way or another. But think about that. It took that off where I didn't say, hey, Days, this is a beautiful contract. Love the story. Love everything. But no, thank you. I'm going to go do something else. Then that's on me. The fact that they made the decision kind of allowed me to walk away and go, that was an amazing time, and you all made the decision, so I'm going to transition into the next phase of life.
You've always said to burning the ship, sometimes you got to do that in life, and you didn't have to burn the ship here.
No, I turned around and they were gone. No one told me and the ships were gone. I was like, I
didn't even see them burn.
Where's the ships?
Where are they?
Phil! Did you see the ships?
Will, where are the ships? I don't know where Phil is.
I made a random name up, but I should have brought it back to the Days analogy. I ruined the whole bit. But it's my absolute favorite quote. We need to relook this up because this is the second time we've mentioned it on here. But there was something about a battle taking place on a beach or something. It's probably a really famous one, so I apologize for my history not being tuned up here. But there was just ships and a captain and people and soldiers, and they got there and they were outnumbered. But the captain or whoever's in charge knew if they could retreat against this huge army, if they knew they had a ship to get back on and retreat, they wouldn't have fought as hard because they knew they had a way out. So he burned the ships so that the soldiers knew there was no way out. I have to win. I have to move forward. So that whole analogy of burning the ships is actually not burning bridges. That's a different analogy. You don't want to burn bridges, but you do want to burn your ship. Then you swim under the bridge that you don't burn. Here in the Freddie and Alyssa Show, you learn things
that we hope are true.
We give people homework. You have to fact check everything. Eventually, we will have someone here with us, or we'll have ways to get on our computers and to do all this stuff. But no, we're making jokes here. But yeah, so that was the whole thing. I just wanted to make it very clear because I get a lot of questions that are coming in, and I just want you all to know just that I'm in a really good place about it. Mm-hmm. And I know that as an audience that it's still going to take you some months because you're now watching what we already did in February. But I look at it as a wonderful experience. I love all the people, and you know, so we'll see.
And also too, chatting about days, can we go back to this week? There, you had one episode.
So we have a couple questions about
all of this if you're open.
I love questions.
Are you open, Fred Smith?
I love questions. I like filling people in.
All right, let's chat therapy.
Yes, therapy I believe is very important. And mental health, I'm glad we've been doing our research and we're learning about it. And I think it's just important to talk about it. And when you can talk to a professional, it makes it all the better because they're professionals. They know what they're doing. And it's nice to vent and get that off your chest. If you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious, it's nice to talk to somebody. But one of my biggest pet peeves with everything really is having to go somewhere these days. So what I love about BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com, is that you can talk to a licensed professional and you can be matched up within as little as 24 hours worldwide and talk to someone from your cell phone, from your house. You can video chat, you can talk, you don't have to go, and it's more affordable, which I love as well. And because you heard it here, if you do want to give it a try, if you go to betterhelp.com/FA, you can receive 10% off. You can chat with somebody. And I know when I've done therapy in the past, it's been very helpful. They help you look at situations in a different way. It opens up your mind. And your guards are down because you're not talking to someone like a friend or loved one, which is nice, which I do all the time. But to get that perspective of an actual professional who is looking at you as a person without the relationship attached to it, and you can be free and talk. So if you want to give that a try, go to betterhelp.com/FA for 10% off. And betterhelp.com, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. We appreciate you. Now back to the show.
Okay, so speaking of the last scene, you were talking to Chandler, and there was a line about the sheepdog, and you kind of hinted at his beard, and you're like, yeah, they say that you look like your dog, or the owners look like dogs. Was that improv, or was that written?
I would love to take credit, but I think it was actually written.
Okay.
But what was interesting is that it was written before he had a beard. Huh. So I think maybe it was a head of hair reference.
Okay.
Or maybe on the day they changed it. I don't remember.
Interesting.
You know, there was a lot going through our minds during those scenes.
Clearly.
And it actually kind of helped the scenes if you think about it. That's one cool thing about being an actor is I've always, no matter what you're feeling, it always really helped me if I was anxious, if I was nervous, if I was angry, if I was in a bad mood, a good mood, no matter what it is, trying to bury that real feeling to be this character, I've learned to put what Freddie's feeling into the character. Mm-hmm. So find a reason. If I was feeling a little, like heads racing a little bit of like, wow, what's happening here? Put that into Sonny arguing with his husband.
Yeah.
So there was definitely there was something about these scenes that you could just see. There was just something going on. So many layers.
Yeah.
Chandler, he goes, what?
We were dying over that.
He was like, almost like, why are you being so, like, what? What are you talking about? No, but yeah, the sheepdog thing, and maybe they changed it. I wish I could answer it better, but if I had to just guess, 98% guess, I think it was written, and I don't think it was referencing the beard. It just so happened to work.
That he had that.
And then we acted it, because I was like, oh, the sheepdog.
Of course.
But it was written that we were going to talk, how it was there.
I do remember reading that scene, and I remember everything about the dogs and whatnot. So it probably just like maybe a happy accident.
Yeah. And it was cute. That last scene though is exactly the scenes that I was telling you about what I love most about our story. Yep. When you can just see that we're sitting with the intent of bringing chemistry and conversation together. And so we were able to do that. But yeah, that's that whole episode right there. There's, we fought.
Love that.
We got over it. We're working on it. We're happy now. And now the next 5.
What happens
now
next
the next
week.
5.
Ooh. But we'll talk about that next week.
Yes.
Next question. Would you ever bring back the buzz cut?
Well, whoever asked about my buzz cut, I love you. I love you that you remember I had a buzz cut, because I had a buzz cut for maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I love it. I would, I would. I'm gambling because I cut my own hair. So I'm basically, if I mess it up, I have to shave it. So every time I cut it, there's a chance it could be a buzz cut. So you could tune into a podcast and be like, where's your head?
No one wants that. I just feel like you were blessed with such a great head of hair. I just love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's what I'll keep. But it's not out of the picture.
It sits so nice.
I might do the whole macho man thing and shave my head and grow my beard just for a little bit.
And wear a tool belt.
And fix things. I'll just start banging the hammer on things. But yeah, I'd bring the buzz cut back.
All right. Is there a cast member that intimidates you when you work with them? Like the most intimidating cast member?
I think, I kind of got lucky, if you want to call it that I didn't watch Days. Mm-hmm. So for me, I wasn't aware of who these amazing stars were. I grew up watching General Hospital with my mom, so I think maybe I would have been more intimidated to work with people because when you see people, you're like, oh, yeah. I know them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know anyone on Days. So if anything, Wally, because I knew him from General Hospital.
Oh, and he played your dad.
Yeah, so that was really cool. But we became close so quickly, he made it easy. But no, I think, if anything, I'm more intimidated or nervous when I'm working with someone new because I have the pressure to be the professional so that this person coming into this world that I have all the experience in and they're new to or have little experience in this fast-paced, do you know your 15 pages? We're going up in 7 minutes.
Right.
So when Brock Kelly came on set, I was more nervous in our first scenes because I felt that he's new. He doesn't know anyone.
Sure.
And so he's got to have butterflies.
Of course.
And I need to be I need to be strength for him so that he can feel comfortable, be creative, and we can create something. But if I mess up, what does that show when he's new and I'm the veteran? So anytime there's someone new, I always feel like I have to up my game because you also have to build equity with your new castmates.
Right.
Like when we were working with Lindsay with the baby, when you're working with just anyone who comes in. Greg Ricker, we got along like super quick. So did Brock. We got along really fast. But the first couple days, you want to show people, it's kind of like you're coming in here, I've got your back, but I also want to show you what I can do.
Do you feel when you first started Days, there are any standouts of other actors who did that for you?
All of them.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody.
That's great. That's
it's
why
just
you
it's
are
just
that
the
way.
culture there. Everyone made me feel comfortable. It was very easy, and I always wanted to do that because I didn't feel that welcomed when I did 90210. I think it was me being antisocial or just to myself and having a trailer where you're not in like a building. That could have had something to do with it. But I just felt, I didn't make the effort, but I just never felt welcome. I never felt good there. I was aware I was on this TV show and I got a recurring on this big show as my first thing ever.
Yeah.
But I never wanted to make people coming into my house feel that way. So I always, even if I don't work with people, I'll say, hey, I think I do that for everybody in the hallway. Most of the time, if I see someone who's new, I'll just kind of like say hello. And especially if I'm working with them, I do that. But I think I've probably done that with almost everybody. I at least try to. But when you work with someone like Judy or Wally or Chandler, you don't have to prove anything to them because they know what you can do. They've seen me at my best. They've seen me, So I'm never like, if you don't feel good that day, I'm not nervous with Chandler because we've successfully
done so many scenes.
Yeah, so when it's someone new, I'm interestingly enough more intimidated with someone new.
Well, speaking of things happening on set, do you have a really memorable moment that happened to you that just sticks out?
I mean, it's not compartmentalized now. Did I say that right? Compartmentalized, whatever I'm trying to say. It even though there were 5,000 scenes, close to 5,000, close to 900 episodes, I don't even see Days as that anymore. It just seems like when I think of high school, I don't really see freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. I kind of just go, oh yeah, I was in high school.
Right.
It's called all lumped together at this point, and the whole thing was just great. It was just great.
Good.
There was a lot of memories of me as a person, and I think it would have maybe felt different if it was this next 10 years rather than these first 10, because though I'm going to grow, I know who I am now. I definitely went through a variation of versions of me on these 9 years on the show personally. So when I look back, just my routines were different.
True. Okay, next question. Do you still talk to or see Chandler? But I guess you kind of answered that earlier.
Yeah, we talked through Instagram. I think we texted a little earlier this year too.
That's like literally the only way we talk to people these days is through DM.
But yeah, we were DMing the other day trying to set up a time for this last.
So excited though.
Yeah, and I was telling you too how him and I have, like, everything that's happening with us exiting the show. We're the only two that know exactly that specific moment.
Sure. You shared it.
You share
it's
it. Because
you.
when you watch something like Married at First Sight, that show that we've been watching, or if you go and you're on an island with someone for, or anytime you're in a specific, that's why you have so many friends in high school. You're stuck in these specific, not stuck, but you know what I mean? You're put in these situations, and I can't wait to catch up with them. Because we only DM just a little bit, so I learned a little bit about what's up with him and what he's up to. But I we'll see what all that once we hop on the Zoom.
All right. So will days continue after September? Is the next question.
I mean, I've been out of the loop. As far as I know, they're going back September 1st. I actually do know they're going back September 1st.
Okay, and then why are people leaving?
I think it's a combination of two things. Either people's choice, and I don't keep up on when people exit. There's so many people coming and going. And I'll even hear my mom, she's like, oh, so-and-so's coming back. And I'm like, really? But she's reading the spoilers of something that I was like, oh, that was 7 months ago. So anytime someone says someone comes or goes, I've never touched on it because honestly, I don't even know. There's times someone's back on the show and I go, really? But I just never worked on those days, so I never saw this person there.
Really?
So I was like, oh, they were back. So I'm watching an episode. I'm like, I never saw them in the halls. Or you just forget. I don't know who comes, who goes, who's stopping by to say hi, who's coming in for one episode, who's back, who's leaving. It's just constant. So I don't know. But all I can say is there's some people maybe left because they wanted to. Others get let go. Yeah. But I don't know, honestly, who at this point. Okay. Like who really got let go or who wanted to leave. You
also can kind of get in trouble if you give news and you're like, they didn't announce
That's the most stressful thing. Like, I'm very pumped. That's one positive for all the fans who are like, oh, it's going to be so sad when you leave. And I appreciate that. It means that we've made a real impact. But the one little positive, there's a bunch of positives, but one of the positives is I don't have to worry about spoiling story anymore. Any day's question you want to ask me starting September 1st, I can speak about and not have to go, oh my God, did it air? What am I ruining?
Well, it's funny too. I feel a lot of times we'll say, what day's questions do you have? And a lot of them are always regarding the storyline, but you can't give away spoilers.
No.
So there's so many questions you can't answer, but this question you can. I think it's a perfect one to wrap up this ep and everything we've been talking about. What have you learned working on Duel for almost a decade as an actor?
Well, as an actor, the soap opera definitely teaches you to be on your toes and listen. It's fast-paced, listen, and I love that I learned to add color to my acting. Really make it interesting, really understand as the actor's perspective, but also I like to look at it as the director and the audience as well, which I feel like the director really represents the story that they want to tell and make sure everything, because you don't want to just be, if it's just me screaming all episode, it's boring. You want to bring people on a journey. So I think I really learned just to really, even with some of the cliffhangers where they'll ask a question and then I'll be like, I'll be more concerned so that the cliffhanger is more like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then you realize when the next scene comes that I'm not concerned or not, but you kind of play into it. So I really try to play into all of that. So yeah, I became a better actor, and as a person, it was just really nice to have a place of work in this industry, and it feels really good to, and this is in those 9 years was also we're going to look back, and it's going to be in a very interesting 9-10 years. For me to work in this industry from 2008 when I got my first job to 2020 is kind of the last decade-ish of what Hollywood was.
You kind of got to experience it at the tail end, because I feel everything is changing, not only with what's happening in the world, but also social media. You know, it's just it's a whole new ball game, and you got to experience kind of the tail end of the classic traditional old Hollywood,
where people didn't have a social media. You know, in 2010, there was no way to look up if you were marketable. They had to have a press kit to show that red carpets were inviting you to events, and you had to go to all those things to show that you were relevant. And your IMDb score, kind of, but and that's basically IMDb for anyone who's not an actor. It's a compilation of all movies and actors and crew and their credits. Yeah. And the more people are clicking on you, I think, and the more articles that are being written about you, the lower your score is. And it changes all the time. So someone
who's better. You want a lower score.
If Jennifer Lawrence has a brand new movie out on Friday, she'll probably be ranked 1, 2, or 3. If she disappears for a while like she has now, she's probably ranked 215.
Still has a great rank.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm ranked in like the 30 or 40,000 range. Yeah. And but that's how they know it. But everything now is social media. The agents, the managers, the casting, the producers, the distribution companies had all the power. And they still are powerful, but they have lost just a substantial amount. And not lost it, it's just even now. I can produce my own thing.
I've seen and heard a lot from people in the industry that right now, with all the breakdowns, they literally say for every role, star names only, star names only, star names only. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens in the industry for everyone. Anyone, you know, who's a new aspiring actor. Get on social media. Do your thing.
You got to be on social. And if I'm wrong, then, you know, I'm sure there are people who can make it through the cracks. But back in the day, the biggest hack that I was so proud to share with people, the biggest hack, is when you send your 8x10 headshot, you send it in a clear envelope. So that managers and agents, before they throw it in their trash, might look at you and go, wait a minute, let me open that. If it's a manila envelope, is that what you call it?
Wow, yeah.
They would just throw it right away. So you send it. I fortunately had connections and never had to do that. But anytime when I heard, because I was always listening to how to do.
That was a great hack for back then.
But you didn't have to be any. You just, if you were the right look that manager agent was looking for, if you had the right energy, people had to bet on the marketing with the star name. But now it's ludicrous to hire someone that isn't going to tweet out or Instagram or Facebook or Twitch or anything to bring sales to your business.
Yeah.
Unless you have Johnny Depp as the lead, where I know, okay, my $20 million I will make back based on Johnny. Now let's give these other 17 actors and actresses, let's just, whoever's best for the job, who cares, because Johnny will bring in the money. Mm-hmm. But if you are raising $1 million, as much as I want to put all my friends in it, if you don't have the following to guarantee that $1 million back on ticket sales, so that's the reality. And people are just making their own stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to look back and go, wow, we got a little taste of pre-social and then kind of during social and hopped on the social train.
Yeah, we did, boo. Yeah, we did.
And also, be sure to subscribe, because next Wednesday is going to be a pleasant surprise for all of you out there. Got a very special guest coming on the show. So be sure to subscribe. We love you. Thank you so much. And until next week.